What's up everyone, and welcome to this week's Cybersecurity Weekly, where we review the security events that happened in the last week. As always, I've broken them down in the timeline so you could just jump around as you see fit. If you find my work valuable, of course, I ask you to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel.
Oh, drat these computers. They're so naughty and so complex. I could pinch them.
We start off with patches. Microsoft has rolled out an emergency fix that addresses the Y2K22 bug that is breaking email delivery on on-premise Microsoft Exchange servers since January 1st, 2022. The problem is caused by a bug in the FIPFS anti-malware scanning engine. FIPFS is the anti-malware scanning engine used by Microsoft to protect its users. It was used starting with Exchange Server 2013. The security researcher Joseph Rusin explained that the root cause of the issue is the use of a signed int32 variable to store the value of a date, which has a maximum value of 2,147,483,647. This means that dates related to 2022 having a minimum value of 2,201,010,001 or larger can be stored in the signed int32 variable. The scanning engine fails to handle the date and generates an 1106 error as visible in the Exchange Service event log. The fix released by Microsoft is temporary. It addresses the problem while the IT giant is working on a final update. VMware released security updates to address a heap-overflow vulnerability tracked as CVE 2021-22045 in its Workstation, Fusion, and ESXi products. VMware has addressed the vulnerability with the release of ESXi 670-2021-1101-SG and these other versions. According to the company, the security vulnerability exists in the CD-ROM device emulation function of the above products. An attacker with access to a virtual machine that has CD-ROM device emulation enabled can chain this vulnerability with other flaws to execute code on the hypervisor from a virtual machine. The CD-ROM device emulation in VMware Workstation, Fusion, and ESXi has a heap-overflow vulnerability, reads the advisory published by the company. A malicious actor with access to a virtual machine with CD-ROM device emulation may be able to exploit this vulnerability in conjunction with other issues to execute code on the hypervisor from a virtual machine. The vulnerability was privately reported to VMware and received a CVFS score of 7.7. The virtualization giant also provided mitigation for this issue that consists of disabling or disconnecting the CD-ROM DVD devices on all running virtual machines. The step-by-step procedure is log into a vCenter server system using a vSphere web client, right-click the virtual machine and click Edit Settings, select the CD-DVD drive and uncheck Connected and Connected Power On, and then remove any attached ISOs. We move on to attacks, vulnerabilities, and updates. Researchers from ZecOps devised a sophisticated persistence technique named NoReboot for iOS malware that fake shutdowns while spies on the user. The technique is based on the concept of simulating a shutdown of the iPhone when the victim attempts to turn off their device. According to the experts, the user is not aware to distinguish between a real shutdown and a fake shutdown. The researchers demonstrated how to use this technique to remote microphone and camera access after turning off the phone and persisting when the phone will get back to a power-on state. In order to hijack the shutdown event, the researchers abuse some components such as the in-call service system application, the Springboard, which is responsible for the majority of the UI interaction, and Backboard, which supports Springboard to handle some tasks related to hardware events, i.e. the button presses. When a user attempts to shut down the device by pressing and holding the volume button, the attacker can inject its code into the daemons of the above components. Springboard and Backboard could be instructed to simulate the shutdown by disabling any physical feedback while displaying the system boot animation. Physical feedbacks that can be disabled are ring and sound from incoming calls and notifications, touch feedback or 3D touch, vibration or silent mode switch triggers a burst of vibrations, screen and camera indicator. The experts pointed out that the phone remains fully functional and is still connected to the internet despite that all physical feedback have been disabled. This means that a spyware can still spy on users. The experts released a proof of concept exploit and published a video proof of concept showing how an attacker with access to a phone could continue spying on the victim using the camera and the microphone. Since iOS 15, Apple introduced a new feature allowing users to track their phone even when it's been turned off. Malware researcher at Nerdine wrote a technical analysis on this feature and shared her opinion on the security and privacy impact. We agree with her on never trust a device to be off until you removed its battery, or even better, put it into a blender, concludes the experts. A vulnerability in Uber's email system allows just about anyone to send emails on behalf of Uber. The researcher who discovered this flaw warns this vulnerability can be abused by threat actors to email 57 million Uber users and drivers whose information was leaked in the 2016 data breach. Uber seems to be aware of the flaw, but has not fixed it for now. Security researcher and bug bounty hunter Saif El-Salami discovered a flaw in Uber's systems that enables anyone to send emails on behalf of Uber. These emails sent from Uber's servers would appear legitimate to an email provider because technically they are, and make it past any spam filters. Imagine getting a message from Uber stating your Uber is arriving now, or your Thursday morning trip with Uber, when you never made those trips. In a demonstration, El-Salami sent an email message that without a doubt appeared to have come from Uber and landed right in the inbox and not in the junk mail. The email form sent to Bleeping Computer by the researcher urges the Uber customer to provide their credit card information. On clicking confirm, the form submits the text fields to a test site set up by the researcher. Note, however, the message did have a clear disclaimer towards the bottom stating this is a security vulnerability proof of concept and was sent to Bleeping Computer with prior permission. On New Year's Eve of 2021, the researcher responsibly reported the vulnerability to Uber via their HackerOne bug bounty program. However, his report was rejected for being out of scope on the erroneous assumption that exploitation of the technical flaw itself required some form of social engineering. It seems this isn't the first time that Uber has dismissed this particular flaw either. Bug bounty hunters Sofiani El-Habrti and Shiva Maharaj claim they had previously reported the issue to Uber without success. JFrog researchers discovered a critical vulnerability in the H2 open source Java SQL database related to the Log4Shell Log4j vulnerability. The flaw, tracked as CVE 2021-42392, could allow attackers to execute remote code on vulnerable systems. Good news is that unlike the Log4j issue, it should not be as widespread. According to the experts, this vulnerability has the same root cause as the Log4Shell vulnerability in Log4j JNDI remote class loading. H2 is a popular open source Java SQL database that offers a lightweight, in-memory solution that doesn't require data to be stored on disk. It is used by various projects from web platforms like Spring Boot or to IoT platforms like ThingWorks. The com.h2 database H2 package is part of the top 50 most popular Maven packages. It has 7,000 artifact dependencies. Although this is a critical issue with a similar root cause, reads the post published by JFrog, CVE 2021-42392 should not be as widespread as Log4Shell, which is CVE 2021-44228, due to the following factors. Number one, unlike Log4Shell, this vulnerability has a direct scope of impact. This means that typically the server that processes the initial request, the H2 console, will be the server that gets impacted with RCE. This is less severe compared to Log4Shell, since the vulnerable servers should be easier to find. On vanilla distributions of H2 database, by default, the H2 console only listens to localhost connections, making the default setting safe. This is unlike Log4Shell, which was exploitable in the default configuration of Log4j. However, it's worth noting the H2 console can easily be changed to listen to remote connections as well. Number three, many vendors may be running the H2 database, but not running the H2 console. Although there are other vectors to exploit this issue other than the console, these other vectors are context dependent and less likely to be exposed to remote attackers. The H2 flaw allows several code paths in the H2 database framework pass unfiltered attacker-controlled URLs to the javax.naming.context lookup function. This allows for remote code-based loading, also known as Java code injection or remote code injection. Experts warn that the most severe attack vector of this vulnerability is through the H2 web-based console, which is embedded in H2 database and is available by default on localhost:8082 when running the H2 package jar. Access to the console is protected by a login form, which allows passing the driver and URL fields to the corresponding fields of JDBC utils.get connection. This leads to unauthenticated RCE, since the username and password are not validated before performing the lookup with the potentially malicious URL, state the experts. Administrators running an H2 console that is exposed to their LAN or WAN are exposed remote code execution attacks and are recommended to update their H2 database installs to version 2.0.206 immediately. Experts also pointed out that many developer tools are relying on the H2 database and specifically exposing the H2 console. The CVE 2021-42392 vulnerability affects H2 database versions 1.1.100 to 2.0.204. It was addressed in the release of version 2.0.206. Researchers from F5 Security are warning of a new enhanced version of the FluBot Android malware that spread posed as Flash Player. A recent smishing campaign spotted by CSIRT KNF, FluBot targeted Polish users with a message asking them to click on a link to view a video. Upon clicking on the link, recipients are redirected to a page offering a fake Flash Player APK that delivers the FluBot malware on the Android device. FluBot has been active since late 2020. It was first observed targeting Spanish users. Since March 2021, the malicious code was also employed in attacks aimed at several European countries as well as Japan. In March, experts from Swiss security outfit Prodaft estimated that the number of infected devices worldwide was approximately 60,000. The Android malware has been used to steal banking credentials, payment information, and sensitive data from infected devices. In past attacks, the malware was spreading by spamming text messages to contacts from infected phones that instruct them to install tainted apps from servers under the control of the attackers. The malicious code also requests permissions to access the Android Accessibility Service implemented to assist users with disabilities in using Android devices and apps, but that was abused by threat actors to carry out malicious activities. Since October 2021, threat actors behind the FluBot Android malware are leveraging fake security updates to trick victims into installing the malicious code. The attackers use fake security warnings of FluBot infections and urge them to install the security updates. The FluBot infection chain is as follows. The victim receives an SMS message that includes a link to a malicious URL. The victim clicks the link and is prompted to install an app. The victim downloads and opens the malicious app that installs FluBot. FluBot accesses the victim's contact list and uploads it to the command and control server. FluBot downloads a list of new contacts to target. FluBot sends SMS message to the new list to target contacts, thus propagating FluBot. According to F5 experts, the FluBot version 5.2 includes important improvements such as the implementation of a new command, update alt-seed, to allow operators to change the DGA or domain generation algorithms seed remotely. In version 5.2, a new command, update alt-seed, is introduced. It enables the attackers to change the DGA seed remotely. Once such a command is dispatched, FluBot stores the updated seed inside the shared preferences under G key, reads the report published by F5. The feature allows operators to elude DNS blacklists or block lists in an attempt to isolate the command and control infrastructure. Experts also noticed that the new version of the DGA mechanism uses 30 top-level domains instead of just 3 used in previous versions. In version 4.9, FluBot communicated directly with the server using HTTPS port 443. In FluBot version 5.0, the malware communicates with the command and control server through DNS tunneling over HTTPS. The new version includes a large list of new commands including updating DNS servers, notification interception, injection reloading, SMS interception, screen grabbing, and more. Security vendor SonicWall confirmed that some of its email security and firewall products have been impacted by the Y2K22 bug. According to the company, starting January 1st, 2022, its email security products began experiencing an issue causing junk box and message log updates to fail. The administrators and email users will be unable to access the junk box or unjunk new emails and to trace the incoming outgoing emails through message logs. In order to address the problem, on January 2nd, SonicWall released updates to North America and European instances of hosted email security. The vendor also released fixes for its on-premises email security appliance, ES10.0.15, and customers using firewalls with the anti-spam junk store functionality toggled on junk store 7.69. The first company confirming the Y2K22 bug was Microsoft. The IT giant has recently rolled out an emergency fix that addresses the Y2K22 bug that is breaking email delivery on on-premise Microsoft Exchange servers since January 1st, 2022. And again, this is a temporary fix until they come out with a real fix. That's Microsoft. The problem is caused by a bug in the FIP-FS anti-malware scanning engine. FIP-FS is the anti-malware scanning engine used by Microsoft to protect its users. Now, we heard about this in the Microsoft version within patches, so I'm just going to skip over this. I'm going to skip over this, and I'm going to skip over this because we've heard it already. If you haven't, then go back to the patches section and look at the Microsoft report. The U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation issued a flash alert to warn that the financially motivated group Fin7 has sent malicious USB devices, BadUSB devices, to U.S. companies over the past few months to infect their systems with the malware. The gang is using weaponized USB devices with the LilyGo logo, which are sent to the victim via United States Postal Service and United Parcel Service. Fin7 using this technique to target businesses in the transportation and insurance industries since August 2021, while it started targeting defense firms since November 2021. The operators impersonate Amazon and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services to trick the victims into opening the packages and plugging the bad USB devices into their systems. According to the alert, threat actors employed packages containing letters about COVID-19 guidelines or counterfeit gift cards and forged thank you notes. Upon plugging the USB thumb drives into a computer, a bad USB attack is triggered and the devices act as a keyboard emulator to send commands to the system. In the attacks analyzed by the FBI, the attack would run PowerShell commands to download and install malicious payloads, including Black Matter and our evil ransomware. The Fin7 group used a broad range of tools and malware such as Metasploit, Cobalt Strike, PowerShell script, Carbanak, Griffon, Dice Loader, Tyrion. In some of the attacks investigated by the FBI, the cybercrime group obtained administrative access and moved laterally within the target network. Taiwanese vendor QNAP has warned customers to secure network-attached storage exposed online from ransomware and brute force attacks. Ransomware and brute force attacks have been widely targeting all networking devices, and the most vulnerable victims will be those devices exposed to the internet without any protection. QNAP urges all QNAP NAS users to follow the security setting instructions below to ensure security of QNAP network devices, states the security advisory published by the company. Check whether your NAS is exposed to the internet. Customers can check whether their NAS is exposed online by using a security counselor, a built-in security portal for QNAP NAS devices. If the NAS is exposed to the internet, the dashboard will display the message. The system administration service can be directly accessible from an external IP address via the following protocols: HTTP. Administrators of devices exposed to the internet should disable the port forwarding function of the router, disable the port forwarding setting of NAS management service port 8080 and 443 by default from the virtual server, NAT, or port forwarding setting. They should also disable the UPnP function of the QNAP NAS from the QTS menu of the My QNAP Cloud, disable the Enable UPnP port forwarding under Auto Router Configuration item. The vendor also published a guide to securely access QNAP NAS via the internet through My QNAP Cloud link. In December, a new wave of Echo Rakes ransomware attacks targeted QNAP NAS devices. Users reported numerous compromises of their devices a few days before Christmas. According to Bleeping Computer Forum, users reported an intensification of the attacks since December 20th. The analysis of submissions to the ID ransomware service for this specific threat started to increase on December 19th and reached a peak on December 20th. EchoRake's ransomware operators demand a ransom ranging from 0.024 or $1,200 up to 0.06 bitcoins, which is roughly $3,000. In August, a new variant of EchoRake's ransomware started infecting network-attached storage devices from Taiwanese vendors QNAP and Synology. The EchoRake's ransomware has been active since at least 2019, when experts from security firms Intezer and Anomaly separately discovered samples of the ransomware targeting network-attached storage devices. NAS servers are a privileged target for hackers because they normally store large amounts of data. The ransomware was targeting poorly protected or vulnerable NAS servers manufactured by QNAP. Threat actors exploited known vulnerabilities or carried out brute force attacks. The ransomware tracked by Intezer as QNAP Crypt and EchoRakes by Anomaly is written in the Go programming language and uses AES encryption to encrypt files. The malicious code appends .encrypt extension to file names of encrypted files. In May, QNAP warned customers of threat actors that are targeting its network-attached storage devices with EchoRake's ransomware attacks and exploiting a Rune server zero-day vulnerability. The Taiwanese vendor was informed of ongoing EchoRake's ransomware attacks that infected QNAP NAS devices using weak passwords. Independent experts observed a surge in EchoRake's infection reports between April 19th and April 26th. In the same period, the vendor also warned its users of an ongoing AgeLoader ransomware outbreak. The security team at the UK National Health Services announced to have spotted threat actors exploiting the Log4Shell vulnerability to hack VMware Horizon servers and install web shells. An unknown threat group has been observed targeting VMware Horizon servers running versions affected by Log4Shell vulnerabilities in order to establish persistence within affected networks, reads the security advisory published by NHS. The attack likely consists of a reconnaissance phase where the attacker uses the Java Naming and Directory Interface, or JNDI, via Log4Shell payloads to call back to malicious infrastructure. Once a weakness has been identified, the attack then uses the Lightweight Directory Access Protocol, or LDAP, to retrieve and execute a malicious Java class file and injects a web shell into the VM Blast Secure Gateway service. Once the web shell is installed, threat actors can use it to carry out a broad range of malicious attacks or activities, such as deploying data exfiltration or deployment of ransomware. In mid-December, experts reported that the Konni ransomware gang was the first professional group that leveraged Log4Shell exploit to compromise VMware vCenter server installs. The ransomware group used the exploit to target internal devices that are not protected. The CVE 2021-44228 flaw made the headlines in December after Chinese security researcher Pors9 publicly disclosed a proof-of-concept exploit for the critical remote code execution zero-day vulnerability, aka Log4Shell, that affects the Apache Log4j Java-based logging library. The attack likely consists of a reconnaissance phase, where the attacker uses the Java Naming and Directory services via Log4Shell payloads to call back to malicious infrastructure. Once a weakness has been identified, the attack then uses the Lightweight Directory Access Protocol to retrieve and execute a malicious Java class file that injects a web shell into the VM Blast Secure service. The attackers employed a Log4Shell payload similar to JNDI, LDAP, example.com, then launches a PowerShell command spawned from ws_tomcat services.exe. When the attackers find a vulnerable server, they use the Lightweight Directory Access Protocol, LDAP again, to retrieve and execute a malicious Java class file that injects a web shell into the VM Blast Secure Gateway service. NHS recommends organizations to look for the following indicators of exploitation: evidence of ws_tomcat service.exe spawning abnormal processes, any PowerShell.exe processes containing VMBlastSG in the command line, file modifications to VMware view/server/app-blast-gateway/library/absg worker.js. Now, this file is generally overwritten during upgrades and not modified. According to the NHS, threat actors are looking for unpatched VMware Horizon servers to exploit the Log4Shell vulnerability. Many users ignore that Norton 360 comes with a crypto mining feature, dubbed Norton Crypto, that could allow them to earn money mining Ethereum cryptocurrency while the customer's computer is idle. Norton keeps a 15% of the mined cryptocurrency. The feature is disabled by default, and users can opt in to profit from the mining activity. However, many of them claim it is difficult to uninstall. According to the ESXi and other users, there is no way to fully opt out of the program, and you actually have to dig into encrypt.exe in your computer's directory to delete it, reported Digital Trends. Norton Crypto is a feature made available Norton 360 which you can utilize for mining cryptocurrency when your PC is idle. Currently, Norton Crypto is limited to users with devices that meet the required system requirements, states the FAQ page for Norton Crypto. Will Norton 360 mine my device without my permission? No. In addition to having a device that meets system requirements, you must also turn on Norton Crypto on your device. If you have turned on Norton Crypto but you no longer want to use the feature, you can disable it through your Norton Crypto dashboard. That's according to Norton. Earlier this year, Boing Boing co-editor Cory Doctorow warned that the mining service would run by default on systems running the Norton 360 security solution, but Norton LifeLock denied it. Norton LifeLock also provided instructions to remove the mining program. Norton Crypto is an opt-in feature only, and it is not enabled without user permission. If users have turned on Norton Crypto but no longer wish to use the feature, it can be disabled through Norton 360 by temporarily shutting off tamper protection, which allows users to modify the Norton installation, and deleting encrypt.exe from your computer, states the company. The choice to add a crypto miner to a security suite is considered by many users absurd, including this user. Threat actors compromised the FlexBooker accounts of more than 3.7 million users. The attack took place before the holidays. Stolen data are now available for sale on multiple crypto crime or cybercrime forums. FlexBooker is an online appointment scheduling platform that allows users to schedule appointments and sync employee calendars. The attack was carried out by a group calling themselves UA Wrong Team, who published links to archives and files containing IDs, driver's licenses, and photos. The threat actors claim the stolen database contains customer information, including names, emails, phone numbers, hashed passwords, and password salt. The company already notified local authorities and sent a data breach notification to the impacted customers. According to the notification, threat actors compromised the service's Amazon cloud storage system. FlexBooker recommends users stay vigilant and review account statements and credit reports for suspicious transactions. The data breach notification service Have I Been Pawned reports that 3,756,794 accounts were compromised in the attack. In December 2021, the online booking service FlexBooker suffered a data breach that exposed 3.7 million accounts. The data included email addresses, names, phone numbers, and for a small number of accounts, password hashes and partial credit card data. The data was found being actively traded on a popular hacking forum. FlexBooker has identified the breach as originating from a compromised account within their AWS infrastructure, states Have I Been Pawned. The UA Wrong Team is also offering data allegedly stolen from the Racing.com digital televised and ready case management software developed by the Redborn Group. Researchers from Malware Hunter Team first spotted a new ransomware family dubbed NightSky that implements a double extortion model in attacks aimed at businesses. Once encrypted a file, the ransomware appends the .nightsky extension to encrypted file names. The ransomware gang started its operations on December 27, 2021, and has already hacked the corporate networks of 2 organizations from Bangladesh and Japan, respectively. The gang has also set up a leak site on the Tor network where it will publish files stolen by the victims or from the victims that will not pay the ransom. According to Bleeping Computer, the group demanded one of its victims the payment of an initial ransom of $800,000 to recover the encrypted data. The researchers noticed that the NightSky ransomware doesn't encrypt .dll or .exe files. It also doesn't target the following list of files or folders: app data, boot Windows, Windows old, Tor browser, Internet Explorer, Google Opera software, Mozilla Firefox, recycle bin, program data, all users, autorun.inf, boot.ini, bootfont.bin, bootsec.back, bootmanager.efi, bootmanager, fw.efi, desktop.ini, iconcache.db, blah, 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 all files and folders that are required for a system to generally boot up and work properly, because if the system doesn't run, you cannot get to their payment page on Tor in order to pay your ransom. You're completely locked out of the system. So, there you go. The ransomware drops a ransom note named nightskyreadme.hta in each folder. The file includes contact emails and hard-coded credentials to the victim's negotiation page, along with the credentials to log in to the Rocket chat to contact the operators. Experts pointed out that the gang communicates with victims via email and a clear website running an instance of the Rocket chat. Researchers believe that in the next months, other organizations will be targeted by the Night Sky ransomware group. Security researchers at Cluster 25 uncovered a recent campaign carried out by the North Korea-linked Konni APT group aimed at Russian diplomatic entities that used new versions of malware implants. The APT group carried out spear phishing attacks using New Year's Eve festivities as a lure. Upon opening the malicious email attachment, a multi-stage attack chain starts. The final payload is a new version of the Konni rat family. The malicious activity starts from an email containing a malicious zip file, which, once decompressed, drops a malicious downloader able to activate a complex chain of actions finalized to deploy a Konni rat malware named scrnservice.dll as Windows service, reads the report published by Cluster 25. The Konni rat was first spotted by Cisco Talos researchers in 2017. It has been undetected since 2014 and was employed in highly targeted attacks. The rat was able to avoid detection due to continuous evolution. It is able to it is capable of executing arbitrary code on the target systems and stealing data. The Konni rat has been attributed to North Korea-linked threat actors tracked as Thallium and App37. C25 researchers have monitored the activity of the app group aimed at Russian targets in the diplomatic sector since August 2021. On December 20th, the group targeted the Russian embassy located in Indonesia with spear phishing messages using the New Year's Eve 2022 festivity as a decoy theme. Unlike previous operations, in the last campaign, the spear phishing messages used a zip attachment named something in Russian, .zip, or congratulations in Russian, instead of weaponized Office documents. The archive contains an executable that acts as the first stage malware. The spoofed messages used a @mid.ru account as a sender to trick the victims into believing that it was sent from the Russian embassy in Serbia. The Windows x32 executable in the archive named something in Russian was compiled on December 20th at 2021, a circumstance that suggests it was specifically developed for the operation that was uncovered by the C25 team. The final payload is an x64 Konni rat version compiled on December 20th, 2021. The attribution of the attacks to the Konni APT group is based on the similarities of the implant used with previous versions of the Konni rat and significant overlap of the kill chain with the TTPs linked to North Korean linked group and the use of CAB files as an infection stage. The New York State Office of Attorney General, or NYOAG, has warned 17 companies that roughly 1.1 million accounts of their customers were compromised in credential stuffing attacks. Credential stuffing attacks involve botnets trying stolen login credentials, usually obtained through phishing attacks and data breaches. This kind of attack is very efficient due to the bad habit of users of reusing the same password over multiple services. According to a recent study, there are more than 15 billion stolen credentials available online that were used in credential stuffing attacks. The study conducted by OAG lasted several months, during which the experts monitored hacking communities and forums focused on credential stuffing. The experts analyzed thousands of posts containing login credentials. After reviewing thousands of posts, the OIG compiled login credentials for customer accounts at 17 well-known companies, which included online retailers, restaurant chains, and food delivery services. In all, OIG collected credentials for more than 1.1 million customer accounts, all of which appear to have been compromised in credential stuffing attacks, reads the report published by the New York AOG. The AOG contacted each of the 17 companies to alert them to the compromised accounts. The OIG also asked the companies to investigate and take steps to protect impacted customers. Every company did so. The OIG compiled login credentials for accounts belonging to the customers of 17 well-known companies, including online retailers, restaurant chains, and food companies. The Bureau collected credentials for more than 1.1 million customer accounts. The OIG alerted the impacted companies that could reset the passwords and notify their customers. Researchers from security firm Avanan in December uncovered a phishing campaign targeting mainly Outlook users with a new technique that abuses the commenting feature of Google Docs to send out malicious messages. The attack chain is very simple. Attackers create a Google document using their Google account. Threat actors added a comment to a Google Doc that refers to the target with an @ sign to automatically send a message that comes from Google. The content of the comment includes the malicious links, while the email address and the attacker's name aren't shown. Google sends a notification email to the target's inbox to notify it of the new comment on the document that mentioned them. In this attack, hackers are adding a comment to a Google Doc. The comment mentions the target with the @ sign. By doing so, an email is automatically sent to that person's inbox. In that email, which comes from Google, the full comment, including the bad links and text, is included. Further, the email address isn't shown, just the attacker's name, making this ripe for impersonators, reads the analysis published by Avanan. The emails are sent out from Google infrastructure. For this reason, security solutions do not label them as malicious. The technique also works with Google Slides and other components of the Google Workspace service. In the phishing campaign tracked by the experts, threat actors leveraged Google Docs and other Google collaboration tools to target other Outlook users across 30 tenants. The attackers used over 100 different Gmail accounts. To avoid being victims of this phishing technique, experts recommend, before clicking on Google Docs comments, encourage end users to cross-reference the email address in the comment to ensure it's legitimate. Remind end users to utilize standard cyber hygiene, including scrutinizing links and inspecting grammar. If unsure, reach out to the legitimate sender and confirm they meant to send that document. Deploy protection that secures the entire suite, including file sharing and collaboration apps. Microsoft is warning of continuing attempts by nation-state actors and cybercriminals to exploit recently discovered vulnerabilities in the Apache Log4j library to deploy malware on vulnerable systems. Microsoft recommends customers review their infrastructure looking for vulnerable installations. According to the experts, organizations may not realize their environments may already be compromised. Exploitation attempts and testing have remained high during the last weeks of December. We have observed many existing attackers adding exploits of these vulnerabilities in their existing malware kits and tactics, from coin miners to hands-on keyboard attacks, reads the post published by Microsoft Threat Intelligence Center. Immediately after the disclosure of the first vulnerability, Microsoft warned of nation-state actors attempting to exploit the Log4Shell vulnerability in Log4j. And in the successive days, other flaws, CVE 2021-45046, CVE 2021-45105, CVE 2021-4104, and CVE 2021-44832 were discovered in the library that were exploited by threat actors in the wild. Most of the attacks observed by the researchers are mass scanning, coin mining, establishing remote shells, and red team activity. UScellular has disclosed a data breach after the attack that compromised the company's billing system in December 2021. United States Cellular Corporation is the fourth largest wireless carrier in the United States with over 4.9 million customers in 429 markets in 23 states as of the second quarter of 2020. According to the company, it discovered unauthorized access to its billing system on December 12, 2021 that resulted in the exposure of data associated with wireless customer accounts. The attackers attempted to use this information to fraudulently port numbers. UScellular revealed that 405 customers were impacted by this attack. The company reset login credentials for every affected impacted customer and immediately changed the impacted customer's PIN and security question answers. In response to the incident, the company also immediately disconnected the computer accessed by threat actors from the internet and requested immediate removal from the internet of the fraudulent websites used by the fraudsters as part of the scheme. The company recommends impacted individuals to remain vigilant and contact UScellular in case they will receive suspicious communications that appeared from the U.S. carrier. The company detected the security breach on January 6, 2021 and determined that the intrusion took place early this year on January 4, 2021. Then, threat actors tricked UScellular employees working in retail stores into downloading and installing malicious software. The malware allowed the attackers to access the CRM using the employees' accounts and then access personal information, including phone numbers of the company customers. Threat actors used an unnamed cloud video platform to install an e-skimmer on more than 100 real estate websites belonging to the same parent company. The e-skimming attackers inject malicious JavaScript code into an e-store to financial data while visitors are purchasing products. Researchers from Palo Alto Networks documented a supply chain attack in which the attackers abused a cloud video platform to inject an e-skimmer hidden in video. Every website importing the video from the platform was compromised due to the presence of the e-skimmer. Every website importing the video was compromised due to the presence of the e-skimmer. The security firm helped the cloud video platform and the real estate firm in removing the e-skimmer. The researchers have discovered that the cloud video platform allows users to create their players that could be customized by adding JavaScript code. The JavaScript customizations could be included in a file that is uploaded to the platform. The attackers were able to modify this static script at its hosted location by attaching e-skimmer code. By updating the player update, the video platform provided the compromised file and served it along with a customized player. The software skimmer is highly polymorphic and elusive. Experts pointed out that it is continuously updated by the authors. The e-skimmer allows attackers to gather sensitive and financial information, including names, emails, phone numbers, and credit card details or credit card data. Stolen data were uploaded to the server cdn-imagecloud.com/image. The researchers shared indicators of compromise for these attacks. Threat actors are using weaponized installers of the Telegram messaging application to deliver the Purple Fox backdoor on Windows systems. Researchers from Minerva Labs pointed out that this campaign, unlike similar ones leveraging legitimate software to deliver malware, has a very low detection rate. The investigation into the campaign started with the discovery of a weaponized installer made by Malware Hunter team. The Purple Fox malware was first discovered in March 2018. It is distributed in the form of malicious.msi packages that were found by the experts on nearly 2,000 compromised Windows servers. The installer will extract the payloads and decrypt them from within the MSI package. In March 2021, researchers from Guardicore have spotted a new variant of the Purple Fox Windows malware that implements worm-like propagation capabilities. The installer analyzed by Minerva Labs researchers is a compiled AutoIT, a freeware basic-like scripting language designed for automating Windows GUI and general scripting, script named Telegram Desktop.exe. Upon executing the script, it creates a new folder named text input under users, username, appdata, local temp, and drops a legitimate Telegram installer and a malicious downloader, text input h.exe. When executed, text input h.exe creates a folder named 164.0618495 under the C user's public video directory, then downloads the following files from the C command and control server to the newly created folder. 1.rar, which contains the files for the next stage, 7zz.exe, a legitimate 7z archive. The 7z.exe is used to unarchive 1.rar, which contains various files. Then text input h.exe performs the following actions. It copies 360.tct with 360.dll name, run dll3222.exe, and servicehost.txt to the program data folder. It executes ojbk.exe with the ojbk.exe-a command line. It deletes 1.rar and 7zz.exe and exits the ojbk.exe process. The attack chain continues by dropping 5 more files into the program data folder. CallDriver.exe, this file is used to shut down and block initiation of the 360 antivirus. Driver.sys, after this file is dropped, a new system driver service named driver is created and started on the infected PC, and bmd.txt is created in the program data folder. dll.dll is executed after UIC bypass. Kill.bat, a batch script which is executed after the file drop ends, and speedmem2.hg is a SQLite file. In the final phase, Purple Fox is downloaded from the command and control servers as an .msi file that contains encrypted shellcode for both 32 and 64-bit systems. Hospitality chain McMenamins disclosed a data breach after a ransomware attack that took place on December 12th. McMenamins is a family-owned chain of brew pubs, breweries, music venues, historic hotels, and theater pubs in Oregon and Washington. According to the company, threat actors have stolen data of individuals employed between July 1st, 2010 and December 12th, 2021. Stolen employee data potentially includes names, addresses, telephone numbers, email addresses, dates of birth, race, ethnicity, gender, disability status, medical notes, performance and disciplinary notes, social security numbers, health insurance plan elections, income amounts, and retirement contribution amounts. According to the company, threat actors likely accessed files containing direct deposit bank account information. McMenamins properties remain open despite the security breach. However, many operational systems, including its phone system, credit card processing, and hotel reservation system, were impacted by the ransomware attack. The good news is that customer and financial data was not affected. The Broward Health public health system has suffered a data breach that impacted 1,357,879 individuals. Broward Health, formerly the North Broward Hospital District, is one of the top 10 largest public health systems in the U.S., located in Broward County, Florida. The attack took place on October 15, 2021, when threat actors breached the hospital's network and accessed patient data. The healthcare system discovered the security breach on October 19th and reported the incident to local authorities. It also hired a third-party cybersecurity expert to help with investigations. According to the investigation, the attackers compromised a third-party medical provider who was permitted access to the system to provide their services. The company urged employees to change their user passwords. Threat actors gain access to patients' information that may have included name, date of birth, address, phone number, financial or bank account information, social security number, insurance information, and account number, medical information including history, condition, treatment, and diagnosis, medical record number, driver's license number, and email address. Security researchers Trevor Spiniolis discovered a new persistent DOS vulnerability dubbed doorLock, affecting the Apple HomeKit in iOS 14.7 through 15.2. HomeKit is a software framework by Apple, made available on iOS and iPadOS, that lets users configure, communicate with, and control smart home appliances using Apple devices. It provides users with a way to automatically discover such devices and configure them. Spiniolis speculates that Apple is aware of the flaw since August 10, 2021, but the IT giant has yet to address it. I believe this bug is being handled inappropriately as it poses a serious risk to users, and many months have passed without a comprehensive fix, writes the researcher. The public should be aware of this vulnerability and how to prevent it from being exploited rather than being kept in the dark, said Spiniolis. An attacker could trigger the vulnerability by changing the name of a HomeKit device to a string larger than 500,000 characters. Upon loading the string, iOS and iPadOS devices will reboot and will be unusable. The vulnerability can only be exploited by attackers with access to the victim's home or via manually accepting an invitation to one. Spiniolis released an iOS app that has access to home data and changes HomeKit device names. In order to solve the issue, it is necessary to force a reset of the device that will cause all stored data to be removed. The only way to recover the removed data will be to restore a working backup. The expert explained that once the device reboots and the user signs into the same iCloud account linked to the HomeKit device, the doorLock bug will be triggered again. The expert pointed out that the issue could be exploited by ransomware operators to make devices unusable. At the end of the year, gaming giant SEGA Europe inadvertently left users' personal information publicly accessible on Amazon Web Services, S3 Bucket, cybersecurity firm VPN Overview reported. The unsecured S3 bucket contained multiple sets of AWS keys that could have allowed threat actors to access many of SEGA Europe's cloud services, along with MailChimp and Steam keys that allowed access to those services in SEGA's name. Researchers found compromised SNS notification queues and were able to run scripts and upload files on domains owned by SEGA Europe. Several popular SEGA websites and CDNs were affected, reads the report published by VPN Overview. The unsecured S3 bucket could potentially also grant access to user data, including information on hundreds of thousands of users of the Football Manager forums at community.segagames.com. The researchers reported that they were able to upload files, execute scripts, alter existing web pages, and modify the configuration of critically vulnerable SEGA domains. The Lapsus ransomware gang has compromised the infrastructure of Impressa, the largest media conglomerate in Portugal. Impressa owns SIC TV channel and Expresso newspaper, among other leading media, like several magazine publications. The attack took place during the New Year holiday. The websites of the Impressa group, the SIC TV channels, and the Impressa were forced offline. The Lapsus ransomware group defaced all the sites, publishing a ransom note that claims that they had access to Impressa's Amazon Web Services account. The attack did not impact radio and cable TV broadcasts, while SIC's internet streaming transmission was interrupted. According to the record, while Impressa claims to have regained control of its Amazon account, in turn, the ransomware gang tweeted from Espresso's verified Twitter account demonstrating to have access to its infrastructure. Early this month, the ransomware gang hit the websites under Brazil's Ministry of Health, causing the unavailability of COVID-19 vaccination data of millions of citizens. The gang also targeted the South American telecommunications provider Claro and Embratel. North Korea-linked app groups are suspected to be behind some of the largest cyber attacks against cryptocurrency exchanges, according to South Korean media outlet Chosun. North Korean threat actors have stolen around $1.7 billion worth of cryptocurrency from multiple exchanges during the past 5 years. According to local media, U.S. federal prosecutors believe that North Korea's government considers cryptocurrency a long-term investment and it is amassing crypto funds through illegal activities. In a classified report cited by Chosun, the U.S. National Intelligence Services found that North Korea was financing its priority policies, such as nuclear and missile development, through cybercrime. Government experts noticed that nation-state actors are not immediately cashing out at all the stolen crypto to create a crypto fund reserve. The report states that North Korea-linked attacks employed the Apple Juice malware to steal cryptocurrency. According to Bloomberg, multiple versions of Apple Zeus have been used in attacks against entities in 30 countries since 2018. We move on to other security news. We're almost done, folks. France's National Commission on Informatics and Liberty, the French Data Privacy and Protection Authority, hit Facebook and Google with 60 million euro, or $68 million US dollars, and 150 million euro, or $170 million fines, respectively. The CNIL fined the IT giants for making it difficult for visitors to opt out of the tracking cookies. The CNIL has received many complaints about the way cookies can be refused on the websites google.fr and youtube.com. In June 2021, the CNIL carried out an online investigation on these websites and found that, while they offer a button allowing immediate acceptance of cookies, the sites do not implement an equivalent solution, button or other, enabling the user to refuse the deposit of cookies equally easily. Several clicks are required to refuse all cookies against a single one to accept them, reads the announcement published by CNIL. The French regulatory body states that both sites do not allow users to refuse the use of cookies as simply as to accept them. The restricted committee fines Facebook Ireland Limited 60 million euros and made it public, states the CNIL. It justified this amount by the scope of the processing, the number of data subjects concerned, and the considerable profits the company makes from advertising revenues indirectly related from the data collected by the cookies. The two companies have to correct their procedure within 3 months. The French body will impose fines of 100,000 euros per each day, of their delay. The U.S. Federal Trade Commission warns legal action against companies who protect their systems against Log4Shell. CVE 2021-4428 attacks. The move aims at urging organizations in protecting their infrastructure while both nation-state actors and cybercriminals are exploiting Log4j flaws in their campaigns. When vulnerabilities are discovered and exploited, it risks a loss of or breach of personal information, financial loss, and other irreversible harms. The duty to take reasonable steps to mitigate known software vulnerabilities implicates laws including, among others, the Federal Trade Commission Act and Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act. It is critical that companies and their vendors relying on Log4j act now in order to reduce the likelihood of harm to consumers and to avoid FTC legal action, reads the announcement published by the US FTC. The FTC intends to use its full legal authority to pursue companies that fail to take reasonable steps to protect consumer data from exposure as a result of Log4j or similar known vulnerabilities in the future. The U.S. agency urges organizations to conduct an assessment of their infrastructure checking for Log4j vulnerabilities. It also recommends consulting the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency's Apache Log4j vulnerability guidance. FTC also recommends updating your Log4j software package to the most current version found on Apache, consult CISA guidance to mitigate this vulnerability. In short, remedial steps are taken to ensure that your company's practices do not violate the law. Failure to identify and patch instances of this software may violate the FTC Act. Distribute this information to any relevant third-party subsidiaries that sell products or services to consumers who may be vulnerable. Recently, CISA issued an emergency directive that ordered U.S. federal civilian executive branch agencies to patch the Log4Shell bug until December 23rd. The deadline to report systems impacted by the Log4j flaw was postponed to December 28th. CISA set up a page dedicated to Log4 shell vulnerabilities and released a Log4j scanner to identify web services affected by Apache Log4j flaws. With that, I say thanks again for watching. Don't forget to share and subscribe, and smash the bell if you haven't already, and I'll see you on the next episode. Take care.